Welcome to the listening show. A show you can listen to. Established in. This is one of those examples of where I can't do simple numbers. I think 2020 was before. It was Christmas Eve. That was our first episode, not last year.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm. Christmas Eve.
I don't think it was.
Well, it was that year, which means it was 2020.
No, the first one was in October or September.
But that means we've been doing it for over a year.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that long. I thought it was like about a year. Anyway, established in 2020.
Yeah, we had an
Now we need to
episode.
print that whole thing on a T-shirt. Listening show established all this tiny text. Yeah, 2020. The very bottom.
Established. Wait, was it 2019? Yeah.
Yeah, we started in Christmas Eve. No, it wasn't. Isn't it? The whole conversation.
Wait, because this is what happened this year. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, no, that was the year I got real bad food poisoning, and then blah blah. Anyway, it's super long, and then okay, definitely this
And it
year.
ends with the number 2020. The very, very bottom. It's tiny.
Unless question mark. I don't know.
Yeah.
I get it.
All
All right.
right.
Today's topic is we're gonna do our perfect fantasies for life, and we're gonna take turns.
That's pretty vague. But
So you're gonna have to do me a favor with this episode and interrupt me, because when I talk about fantasies, I keep going and it's fun for me.
Okay.
I will just keep talking. So what you have to do is, first of all, you start.
Oh, okay.
So you at least will get your monologue for a bit,
Crush your dreams.
and so the exercise is specifically. I wish I could do mine first so I could give you an example of
Yeah, I
what the
kind of
goal
wish
is.
you could, but apparently you cannot.
Well, I can. I just think that I would go too long.
Well, you're going to go too long regardless, according to you. So,
Actually, I'm going to make a concerted effort not to, so it will be fine.
okay.
All right. The exercise is basically this. Yes. It is, if you woke up tomorrow and things happened the way that you think, you'd be like, man, that would be great. Things in your behavior or things in your circumstances or in the world around you. You wake up tomorrow and life starts going as it could, or as you believe that if it was perfect, it should, you know?
No. This is why you have to explain.
All right. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to start.
Here it comes.
Okay. So
I'm going to do it.
So tonight I go like this. I sleep, right? I hit my pillow soft. When I wake up, and this is how it is every day after, okay?
The pillow is cold.
I wake up with that fuzzy feeling you get when you've gotten like the perfect amount of sleep and you feel like euphoric, like tickles on your skin. Okay, so that. And it's cold outside the blanket and it's like 6 a.m. This is my perfect morning, right? It's like the sun is either just barely up or not up at all yet. But I'm up and I'm wide awake right away. That'd be great. And I feel good. Okay. So then I go take a nice shower. Okay.
I'm following.
Okay. And then I hear a knock, a rapping, if you will, at the door.
Is it Gandalf?
Well,
it would be perfect if it was Gandalf
Yeah.
or Ian McKellen. I'd be like,
Sure.
it's perfect.
okay. So a rapping happens. And I answer the door and they go, "Are you Zach?" Yeah, that's me. And then they go, "Hey, we heard about you because we heard a sample of your music or whatever. And we want to offer you a contract where we and our plethora of resources of musicians and studio people and technicians, and we want you to, to do contract work with us, but just make your own stuff." Right? So I'd be like, "Wow, that's so exciting. How much money do I get?" And they're like, a simple amount of money, like I don't know,
All the money.
like $10,000 a month. Not like F you, you're Bill Gates kind of money,
not
but
FU
like
money, but
like that's so much money.
Yeah.
That's like $120,000 a year, right? It's not starting off. Maybe I can climb the ladder, but that'd be great, just 10. And then I work, that'd be like, yeah, just work on it like 2 hours a day, get us one project, whenever it's perfect and it's the way you like it. And then we're going to have you do bigger projects like working on soundtracks and stuff too. I'm like, wow, that's so exciting. Okay. So that's the job thing figured out. The next thing is that somebody comes up and says, "Hey,
we heard you got a music contract, so we want to give you
Right.
Sandwiches.
So the next thing that happens is I'm doing my music project. This is days later. Every day I've woken up and I've done the shower and I've woken up good and everything. And then I do my 2 hours of work and then I'm writing my book and stuff. So I'm doing all the regular things. I'm trying to keep this an approachable but perfect scenario.
There's a lot of chance involved.
Well, this is the perfect scenario. Okay.
Yep.
So the next thing that happens is they go, okay, the next contract work that we're doing is we're working on this big project where we need a soundtrack and we need the feeling to be this. It's a very exciting thing that we're creating. And we want you to head the composition, group. We want you to headline that. So basically I go up and I meet with all these incredible musicians and artists and I stand up and I'm like, we're working things out and I'm talking about the music theory with people. And then it's in a big, cool, beautiful studio room. Right. And then I'm going, blah, 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 blah. And I'm telling people music and they're all paying attention to me. That's very important at this part. They have to pay attention and they have to care what I'm saying. So I'm doing this and I'm talking and I'm being nice. I'm smiling. I do this. And then I look over there and it's the most beautiful girl ever. Right. And then she marries me. And she's like, wow, look at that guy. He's got all of their attention.
And then she marries me.
Right. So she's like, wow, that guy has all of these incredible musicians' attention. He must be the guy. Right. And then I am the guy. Right. And she works as like a like a volunteer girl who helps every orphan. Okay. That's what her job is.
That's my job. I help every orphan.
Yeah,
I'm very busy. There are many of orphans.
Yeah, and she adopts a bunch of orphans too, right? Okay. And because she adopts so many orphans,
she needs some help.
She does. The state has granted her access to an orphan mansion. Okay.
I'm going to interrupt to ask, when did you think of this? Was this in your free time when you're supposed to be working? Or are you just making this up?
Yeah, I'm just making this up.
Okay. All right. That's fine. As long as it is actually what you want. Then
yeah, these are all things that I imagine I would really like.
I was just thinking, this is really detailed. Were you wasting time when you should have been working on something to imagine?
No,
were you
I'm
daydreaming about the life you wish you had?
Pitter pattering I'm doing is because I'm making it up on the spot. That's why I'm taking so long.
That's fine.
Okay. So she has access to an orphan mansion. Okay, there's a whole mansion of orphans. Okay,
I don't know why that tickled.
And in the basement of first of all, the mansion's cool because there's all these insets in the wall where there's slides to other areas of the house. Okay,
it's an orphan mansion.
It's for orphans.
As orphan mansions.
There's a studio in the basement. So we're married, right?
Oh no.
And then every day I'm hanging out with the orphans. We're having a lot of fun. They're not orphans anymore, by the way, because I've adopted them.
Unorphaned them.
Yes, but I'm gonna. For the purpose of this, we're going to call them the orphans still. Yeah. Because they were once
orphans and they live in an orphan
and it's funny
mansion.
to say orphan. Okay. So I hang out with the orphans a lot. And then my beautiful, sexy, hot wife, who's so kind and funny, she's always telling me to do stuff like, hey, would you help me with this? I want help. And I'm helpful. I'm a helpful guy. So one thing she's like, man, I've never gardened. I wish I could garden. And then we go and I teach her how to garden. And so we spend time and she wears a cute hat. Okay. This is all very important. She has to wear a cute hat. And then, so we'll garden sometimes. And then, we'll hang out with the orphans. And then I make my movie over, the course of 10 years. And she's super supportive, through our gardening and stuff. I'll tell her all my ideas and she's always just like listening to me because that's what I like is when people listen to me. And then I make my story and it becomes a show and then that's successful. And then with that money, I make a company that makes healthy food for super cheap. That's the substitute for McDonald's and all that stuff. And then when I'm old, I have a bunch of orphans who are now grown up and they're not orphans, they're my kids. And then they have kids and they are hopefully not orphaned, but then I have a bunch of grandkids and then we all have the mansion together, the orphan mansion. And then, my wife does a lot of cool things that I support her too, not just orphans, like she's way more complex than that. So that I think I kept it fairly short. Your turn.
No, it was not short, but it was enjoyable. So,
okay. Maybe I'll do more when you're done.
But you just made that up.
Yeah.
What was any of that something you thought about before? Like maybe waking up feeling
sure.
refreshed. Well, what parts then? Very briefly, since most of it was made up.
I also, in real life, I also want a wife who's sexy and wants to
I want
garden.
to wake up feeling awake and excited for the day and have a wife. That's
I also would. It'd be cool if I got to help out kids.
maybe you want kids then.
I would like to adopt someday if that's a possibility. I might change my mind about that, but I would like to in real life. And the gardening thing is really important, and I do think it would be cool if I was working on a bunch of cool projects and making steady income, just working on music stuff. Now, maybe I'll change my mind on that, but ellipsis. It's the kind of ellipsis with 4 periods.
You mean it's the kind of ellipsis where the chapter ends, and now it's time for
There's 2 kinds of ellipsis. So ellipses. There's the 3-period ellipsis, which means something more is coming, and the 4 kind, which means nothing more is coming.
It literally is ellipsis with a period.
With 4 periods. Yeah. Your turn. Beat that.
I was just gonna say I have to beat your story and make one up, but the catch is, which is already hard. The catch is it has to be true.
Yeah, that's what I was struggling with.
Think I'm gonna.
What you have to do, this is my helpful tip to you, because I am good at wasting people's time. Is what you do is when you can't think of something, you act something out. Like when I couldn't think of what to do, I heard a rapping at the door.
I have a question. This sounds like we're making it up for sake's sake. Actually, it's almost improvising a story rather than something you actually aspire to.
Well,
do you want me to entertain you with this story? Is that my job right now? That's what I thought.
Okay, but don't dick around. Like
you did.
Yeah, but I was also kind of serious.
I know. I'm just saying this isn't like this is my goal.
So this is the exercise truly. If luck was on your side, these things would happen. That's basically what I did. Somebody came to my door.
I interpreted it as let's imagine like we're kids. Like, oh man, imagine this. Then imagine this. This is great. Wow. Then imagine that. It's not about I actually want it. It's just it would be great if it happened.
Yeah.
That kind of fantasy.
Also, if you want it.
A fantasy that you would like, though.
Can I tell you what I think your fantasy is?
Yeah, I would be more interested to hear that than what I think it might be. Okay. And I'm not being sarcastic, really.
But that's just me talking again.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, this is your fantasy, right?
I'll tell you what you want.
Yeah, this is what you want. Every day you wake up in a pile of shit.
And I'm like, warm.
You're like, yes.
Yeah, warm.
It smells good. And then you take a shower and shit. and then you're like puking all the time. And then you hear a rapping. Okay? A rapping in the door.
It's like, hey, you owe us $10,000 a month.
It's the police IRS, there to arrest you. Okay, I'll try to. Okay,
I'm like, okay, I'll go with you. And so I go to rehabilitation class. I learned how to pay my taxes, and then someone in class points at me and goes, "I remember you. I'm accusing you of sexual assault." So then I go to prison. And she kills
has
you. So many orphans. Everyone believes her story because she has all the orphans.
She's my wife.
Oh, best punchline.
Okay. Oh gosh. Okay, I think it will be like maybe not as funny as me goofing off like that, but it might be equally funny to actually do what I think your fantasy is.
Okay, right. Did you? I assumed you actually had idea of what my fantasy was.
I'm gonna it's gonna be silly still.
But before, when you proposed,
I had a couple ideas. Okay. Right. So every morning you wake up similarly. It's very comfortable. You're like, wow, and you feel awake, and it's early in the morning, and then you have your routine. You eat awesome breakfast, and then you're like working out and you're in shape and everything. And then you have and then everybody leaves you alone. For
I was
one
waiting
thing.
for that. That's
Yeah.
the part I thought you might guess.
Okay, but then they don't, because then you get to plug yourself into communities that you're all like, this is awesome and cool and fulfilling, and then you have a job where you get to do kind of what you do now, where it's just but like a couple days a week or something, and then you can use the rest of your time making cool videos and working on things kind of like you want to. And then you figure out what your freaking YouTube channel is going to look like, if you're going to have one at all. And then I don't know what your long-term plans would be at all.
Well, see, if I come up with something that I want, it's not going to be as fun as your story. Unless you want me to try to improvise a fantasy, which I'm up to playing that game if you want.
Go for it.
Okay. All right. Improvising a fantasy. Here we go. Someone comes to my door.
Who does?
Someone. I don't know.
A rapping?
I hear this.
A rapping
I
at the
was
door.
like, well,
Okay.
it's probably for me.
That's a
Probably
rapping.
Probably bad news. And they go, hey, do you like winning the lottery? I was like, I've never tried. And they go, would you like to? Like, I guess. And they go, well, then you win the lottery. Like, cool. How much do I get? $1 million. Sweet. How much tax do I have to pay on that? All of it. Well, that sucked. And then that's over. No, I'm kidding. I get money from the lottery or wherever it comes from, and I give $1 million to my dad, Susu Price.
Yeah.
And then I don't really see the rest of it ever. I maybe invest it, or I open up a local business I'd like to open, the motorcycle store, whatever it is, where it's just a cafe for motorcycles, basically. And I run that for a while. I work there. Like, I literally just make coffee there, even though I own the place, but I just work there until one day I'm like, you know what, you guys, you run the store. I'll just leave and do something else. So then all the money's gone because it's in the store, whatever, and I don't see it.
Can I guess what's next?
If you want to, otherwise I'll just keep making up stuff.
You learn how to fly a helicopter and you buy a house in Colorado.
Very close.
Okay.
I get bored and I go to the local airport and I ask to learn to fly planes.
Okay.
Helicopter is a good guess, but I learned how to do that, but I never do anything with it. I learned how to fly. I'm certified. I never do anything with it.
Just so you know, this is an aside. Now, to get a job as a pilot, you don't need to have a 4-year degree. You just have to be certified to fly and pass
Yeah.
a bunch of tests and stuff.
Yeah, but
It was always
but
the
it
other
does
way.
cost money. I mean, it's
Oh yeah, yeah.
so it's expensive.
But-
But you can go to flight school and become a pilot effectively.
Well,
kind of. I mean,
you could do
there's
that
different-
before, but now you can get a job at like, very nice places like UPS or FedEx or like other shipping
Yeah, that's
places.
cool, but I don't actually want to do that. That's why I realized.
I know. I just was
in
saying.
this fantasy, I'm learning to fly not because I want to fly. I don't really care. It's interesting. I'd like to learn how to do things, and I learn horseback riding, and I learn.
I have a question.
Yes, what
Do you-
else happens?
Do you take out a stipend and purchase a small plane for yourself that you can just?
No,
Okay.
I don't end up seeing any of this. They're
You don't have a plane in your fantasy.
These are just experiences that happen to me more
Okay.
than things I'm accumulating for myself. So I technically own a store, but I don't really touch it anymore.
Yeah.
I know how to fly a plane, but
Your
I don't
Forrest
have one.
Gumping life. You're just going from one thing to the next.
Kind of. I mean, it should be nice if I owned Apple and I was a billionaire, but that's what Forrest Gump was. Anyway, experiences. So then I get to ride around the country because I can afford to not have to go to work for like 3 months. And then I hear rapping on the door. That's what you said to do. I hear rapping on the door.
It's a
I'm
rapping.
like, what does he want now? I'm referencing somebody. I go to the door and there's like a harem. I'm like, what are you? I'm like, what's going on here? The Girl Scouts? Like, we're a harem. We've come together.
We're adults and we're a harem.
We're a harem.
Okay. I have a question about the harem.
Sure.
Are they like a cool harem or like?
I don't know. I just made it up. I haven't asked them yet.
No. But so like, are they good looking for one thing?
Yeah, they're a harem.
Oh, yeah, but the harems aren't always good looking.
I was gonna say they're a really old lady harem. I was gonna say it's like 80-year-olds, and I obviously didn't recognize them.
Okay, is it a sex harem or just a company harem?
I don't know. I mean, actually, I do know.
Okay,
I
tell me.
already knew that part.
Okay.
I'm like, what do you want? And they're like, do you want a harem? I was like, not really. And I'm like, well, can we hang out? I'm like, I guess you can hang out in the living room. So they hang out, and
Are they all
we watch-
female?
Yes. We watch a movie, and then I just realize I want to be alone. So I say, thanks for hanging out, and then they leave.
Did they come over like Saturdays?
But then they keep coming over for you after that.
For me? Wait, you live here?
Yeah,
and this fantasy live here. Oh, the harem comes to my house.
I live here. And then I finally decide to take a little bit of money and I invest and I invent a little thingy, whether it's a quirky thing or a thing that people use or a gimmick, and it makes a nice little amount of money, like not $1 million, but like 6 figures. And I use that and I go buy a piece of land and I build and design a tiny house and I can go live there.
Does the harem keep coming to my house?
Yeah, they came by, who knows why, presumably for me, but then they kept coming back.
So I have a question. This is important to me. I really care. I'm curious. The harem. The harem, they came over for sex and you said no, but then they were like, you're just so cool. I want to be around you.
I just assumed that they wanted sex because they're a harem.
But harems
they did ask, could you? And I was like, not really.
Okay.
I said, do you want a harem? I was like, not really.
So, okay.
And you were like, I could use some concubines. And they're like, we could probably work something out.
Yeah, sure. My wife would have to approve it. But
well, yeah, okay. And in my fantasy, you don't get your fantasy. Okay. That was a joke, but I assume that these are not.
Part of my perfect fantasy is that you don't get yours.
That would have been a great one-liner.
The very beginning, that's the first thing you wish for.
I know what I want.
I don't want you to have anything.
In my fantasy, you don't get your fantasy. Yeah, sorry. No, I just assumed that these were not the same universe, 2 different universes.
That's fine.
Whatever. So they come over for you because in my fantasy, why can't you be happy?
Well, I don't think a harem would make me happy, but
whatever.
Unless it was like a fun hangout kind of harem. It wasn't like everybody's always naked and smells like sweat in there. And
you'd
kind
like
of harem. I feel like that was
a gift harem. You can't turn it down.
Like honestly, talking about harems really quick, I feel like it would just be smells.
Sorry, I gotta finish up this stupid fantasy.
Okay, go ahead.
Very good.
Do you agree that harem would be just smells though?
I hadn't thought about it.
It's just sweat. It's like a room full of sweaty people.
That doesn't sound nice.
Continue.
Anyway, wrap it up. I go live out in this land, it's a little home by myself, and it's self-sustaining, so it has solar and a well, and I pay for food. That's like it.
Do you raise cattle and slaughter them?
I have a dog that runs himself. He knows how to use everything, but he has his own door. He gets his own dispensary for food.
Is this dog Ronin?
No.
Okay.
It's a fantasy. Yeah. It's a smart dog that I wasn't lazy about. And then I go to a job every once in a while. I work at the shop when I'm bored. I go make coffee, and then I'll still try to learn things. But most of my time, I'm just sitting at home, and I'm trying to think of things that I want to create or do, but I don't really have money to go do things, and I don't need money. I have a place, and I'll have to pay for his food, and I work a job sometimes because I like hanging out there. It's just very simple, but this fantasy requires some money and a harem to say no to. All right, there you go. Sorry.
So basically,
this was different than your story, but it wasn't as good.
Well, your story, I like it because what it epitomizes is the fact that you want your fantasy in life is to have no commitments at all. Like, because every one of the things that you did, it was the idea was I'm there, but I'm not really.
I don't think you meant it this way, but I interpret that as the negative perspective of. Which I'm not saying is bad, but that's kind of a negative way. Inversely, when you told your story, I interpreted it as, oh, you just want money so that everything is easy. Well, that's what I want. Who doesn't? I just wish my commitments or obligations were nullified, and then I can do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Anyway,
do you have like a lady friend?
I hadn't thought about it.
Like a cool one, like a one that you would be with. That'd be the fantasy, right?
For you.
No, I'm just saying like in your fantasy, really cool, awesome, fun friend who's a girl enters your life, and then she's like your ward in that, like you guys do a ton
but
of
in the
things
fantasy,
together.
I forgot to say, I have a leadership position that I get to excel at and abuse in. That's not the right words, but for example, I own the store and I try to act like and be one of the people there. But I get to teach a class at some point, and I have so much fun because I'm really knowledgeable what I'm teaching about. But I just act weird and do whatever the fuck I want because I'm the teacher, and I get to have a lot of fun.
Just take your pants off and stand on the desk.
Not that kind of weird, but like, good morning. And you! Especially you. Like just weird behavior. Like, well, this guy's so weird. I have no consequences for my actions there. Not really. I mean, I'm just being weird.
Just take like a peach and just throw it at the chalkboard.
Yeah, absolutely. Like just stuff like that. Like even I didn't know I was going to do that.
Yeah.
That's today's lesson.
It's like surprise yourself.
Anyway, on that note, award, my place is too small. I want a place to myself. However, I wouldn't mind having somebody who works for me that I get to like treat really well, like some guy who just, I don't know, in my little house is not a good example. But like imagine I had a mansion, I have a butler, like I love this dude. Like, dude, you need to get paid enough and do all these things. Like, thank you so much, Bill. Like, you're awesome. Whatever. It could be a guy or a girl, whoever it is. I'm just like, I'm happy that you're here and doing all this stuff. But it's different in this fantasy where if I have a position of power over people, like a teaching position, I get to act weird. But if I have a position like literally over somebody, like they're my ward or something, I want to treat them really well. And not understand that I am the one who.
Yeah, a ward is not really like I have control over you. It's more like I house you.
No, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
You have all the orphans. I'm gonna live in a little place by myself.
Well, okay.
Like my place is going to be small, but nice, like really small, but pretty nice. Not a chandelier, maybe a piano in there, that kind of fancy.
Can I tell you my alternate fantasy
Sure. Let's just keep going with these fantasies.
So this is in the world where I'm forced to first of all, not get married. Okay.
You're forced to?
Yes. Or I can't do it. So this is I think an interesting, I guess it's not super interesting. It might be interesting to you to know that my other fantasy is like super opposite of the fantasy that like it's the first fantasy in my mind. That is
interesting.
So like my second fantasy is I win the lottery or I come into money. I like it to be something I earn.
Yeah.
But I write a song and it goes crazy popular. I make a ton of money. Something like that.
Like you do one nice little thing.
And it snowballs.
Like I made the example of making an invention or something, and it pays good. Whatever. A song is a great example of something that you made that just made a lot of money, and there you go. Right? A little, that's a good example. I think we both would like that, and it's something you can actually aspire to for a real life fantasy. But continue.
And basically, I turn into Aloysius Pendergast from the Pendergast series. In that, what I do is I become extremely competent at everything. I go to history classes and I learn about history and I become like an archaeologist and then I'm like super in shape and stuff. And then with my money, I become kind of a recluse, right? I buy like a big mansion that's like hidden in this area. And then like I discovered this mysterious like girl and her name is Constance Green. And then she's my ward and she just lives at the house and she's super mysterious. Like, why does he live with that one girl? And then if you figure out it's secretly because she's like 150 years old and she took a potion to be like young.
Which if they had taken history class, they would have known about that.
Right. You know, she had
about Constance Green. They'd know that.
So I'm literally just copying the Pendergast novel series right now.
I thought so. I just haven't read them.
But I want to be him. So that's
when you said him, now I remember you telling me about that, the fact that he's really competent. Well, if we're jumping back and forth between fantasy, something that's less crazy and more possibly attainable. In my fantasy, I like the idea that my obligations, whatever, are paid for, so I have all the time. And in that time, I said I want to get experiences, which is partially correct. I also want to just learn things. So like if I literally have nothing to do, I'm going to go take a sign language course or something, and this, volleyball, whatever, just like events that I have to go do.
Yeah.
And if for some reason I don't want to do it, I can just not go. I have no obligations. It's like this childish reverse psychology. If you can remember your joke, you obviously have one. It's like,
no, it's literally just the same observation. Like every one of your fantasies is, I don't have to commit to it.
Well, no, I mean, yes, but
no.
And by no, I mean, yes.
Yeah.
I think everybody experiences it to a degree. It's this, there's a word for it, reverse psychology thing for kids. Hey, you can't touch this. Well, now I want to touch it.
Yeah.
If you free will, whatever thing, we've kind of talked about it, because I don't have to do it.
Well, now you want to.
Now I want to, as opposed to I have to do it. I want to do it less. So if I don't have to go to all these things, now I kind of want to, whatever. That's the fantasy.
I totally get it.
I think it's, I don't want to say if it's true. I don't know if it's true. Because backing out of fantasies for a moment, if it came true in your song, you got a nice chunk of little cash there from something that you did, would you actually go start living that way?
No.
Okay, so that's the question I have. If you can play around a little bit, but what I really want to know is, given this jump start that we both basically agree on, your bills are paid. You wake up because you get to sleep now, and you more or less got yourself in order, and you have all the time in the world, just kind of do whatever you want. So your song sold whatever. How do you think you would actually live your life? And I imagine it has to be a combination of what you want to happen in life. But truthfully, if you're honest with yourself, what would actually happen?
What if, you want to do that? The most realistic fantasy now?
It's more about being honest with yourself. For example, I say that if I had all my financial obligations out of the way, that I would start to go sign up to classes and do stuff. And I think I would, but I don't think I'd do it as much as I think I should. I would end up inevitably wasting a lot of that time. Like, I'm just going to stay home today. For the most part, I think I'd follow through with what I want. But ultimately, I think my laziness would ruin it from being as good as it could be. For example, so maybe is that the same for you? Or maybe you'd say, actually, if I had that time, I would want to go make sure I go do this. Is there anything that would change your fantasy from being what you want it to be?
Is there, wait, ask that question again. Is there anything that would change?
Your bills are paid because your song's sold. You get to wake up in the morning. You have nothing to do all day long.
Are you asking for the most realistic projection?
Yeah. Basically.
Well, the most realistic projection is that I'm still a schlub, and I'm, even if I got money, I would just be a schlub with money. That's the most realistic. Now, the most realistic fantasy where things go better because I make better choices, I can see, I come into that money. I use a lot of it to help people. And that's really general and vague and obviously altruistic. And that's in ways that I am not. So that's why it's fantasy. I get to be.
Like, that's what I mean. Like, I hope we've all asked ourselves, for me specifically, I thought about if I actually was given like $1 million in my current situation, would I actually give that to my dad, or would I keep it for myself, or would I give him some of it? Like really be honest with yourself. Those kind of questions.
Right.
So
I would pay off debts. And then I would, after I paid off debts, if I actually had that money, boy, it's really difficult thinking, what would I actually do?
Yeah. What would you actually do is like the question.
I would do my very best. And I actually do believe I'd do this anyway, being a schlub or not. I think what I would do is I would consider, this is how much money I have. How can I stretch this out or reinvest this to have a reoccurring sustainable income with this? Because once you get $1 million, you can find a way to make that sustainable.
Yeah, there is a cutoff, because for me, the $1 million is the X amount. It's really arbitrary right now, really.
Right.
But there's only so much that you need, and there's a certain amount that I'd like, which is more than I need money to spend. But the rest of it, I know what that want is. After that, the money goes away. It goes in savings, or I give it away. Like, I don't need it now. That's kind of the point of a small house, especially if I had all that money. Is just, I don't want to waste it, and I know I would not appreciate it, and I'd be depressed in a huge place to myself. So
yeah.
I've always liked the small places I've lived in. Like, yeah, whatever.
I like to think I would use that money to make like some sort of housing.
Sorry, some sort of what?
Some sort of housing. And then, make it to where people could move into this housing, and then I'd have really good sustainable income with that. And then with that would equip me to do all the other things I want to do, be creative and go back to school and stuff. I think that's pretty realistic. If I came into that money if I sold my song, I would do my due diligence to equip myself to not have to work a full-time job or slave for anybody else.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you'd want to try to make that self-sustaining,
right?
Which is kind of my idea with building a little self-sustaining house.
Yeah,
and then maybe I still work, but it's just kind of for food and some stuff. But most of my future worries are kind of taken care of. Whatever. Which,
if I could equip myself to have just a self-sustaining job or income or anything where I have all my time still, I like to think that I could do a lot of the things I want to do. There's a lot of things I want to do, and they include my stories. I have several stories. One I'm working on right now. My music, plenty of that. Business ventures I have. communities I would like to build one day. I'd like to do one of my long-term goals after I do everything else is to make a new kind of church. That's not to say like a new religion. It's just like figure out a way, like the right way to do church. That's not, seeped in culture.
All the problems that we have with it. That's an interesting
Right.
ambition.
And it's a real true one of mine. I actually have to, one of the things I was reconsidering lately, because that's part of my long-term plans for a long time, but that was like later on. I'm wondering if that needs to be bumped up to earlier. And maybe that's before my business venture ideas, because it's important.
Well, we're both shallow enough for our fancy, for both of us, our first part of our fancy is money. That's the first part. But I think a lot of people would say, if I had all that money, I would just go buy all this stuff, which is fine enough. And to their point, 10 years ago, I'd probably do the same thing.
Well, to be fair, I don't really want to win the lottery. I just want like I want to work for it. And then I would like it to be to where I don't have to worry about it ever.
Yeah. It's,
whatever.
However, if you come to money honestly, whatever.
Sure.
The point is we all wish we had some money to say.
Yeah. It's like saying, I wish we had resources and air and food.
Yeah,
it's well, of course we would.
I can't really rag on it.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing to say, I want all the money, or I want all the money and I don't want to have to work for it. And I want all the money to do pleasurable stuff with. We're not quite down the road. All right. But we are simple enough to go, I want money. Okay. I'm just pointing that out.
Okay. Just because it's fair. And I did a fantasy where I was forced to not get married. I want to force you to get married in your fantasy now.
I thought so. I thought about that earlier when you said I'm forced to not get married. It's like, you got to turn that around.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not why I did it, by the way. But since it's only 37 minutes in, we've got time.
You got a lot of fantasy out in that time.
So in this fantasy, the government, hey, you stupid bitch, we're going to kill you if you don't either, go to jail or get married, or something. I don't know. Some
we're gonna
weird
kill
rule.
you if you don't get married. Okay. Wow.
Or you just meet the perfect gal and you're like, I want to be around her all the time, and she won't be around you unless you get married to her. And so you decide to.
In this fantasy, the world is different and things aren't the way they are. And I want to get married because of that.
Sure.
That's this fantasy. Okay. I meet a girl. She has
huge boobs.
I was gonna make that joke, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. I was gonna say she has tits and ass, but like that's not
big
Hanukkah
boobs.
Not smart enough.
We're talking huge boobs. We're talking real bonkers.
About to, but then you need a girl with even bigger Hanukkah hooves.
Gangas. Yeah.
What I don't understand the point of this fantasy. Is it what she's like or what my life would look
what your
like
life
as a
would have
married
to look
person?
like
Yeah,
to be tolerable.
All right, whatever. Woman for procreative purposes. That's the one I get married to.
You would have kids?
Well, I guess I don't have to in this fantasy, don't I? Okay, no, I wouldn't then.
Okay.
I'm only complying so much as you are forcing me to then, I guess.
Well, you put your own restrictions. I'm just giving you an example of a restriction that.
Then it wouldn't be much different than my last fantasy. She just lives with me in this tiny house.
So you don't have like you can't like an opposite sort of like
but it
mine.
wouldn't be me. So it's kind of like I'm writing a story for somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it would be a version of you. Like
No.
there's a version of you that would do things like.
It's like, okay,
crazy.
if you were a murderer, what kind of murderer would you be? That's dumb, but it also has the merit that that's how I interpret the question.
Well, everybody's just a murderer who hasn't killed yet.
Your Honor, everyone's a murderer who hasn't killed yet. My client just got caught. I rest my case.
There's like, hey, he makes a point.
He's not wrong.
Yeah. Specifically, I think it's fun to how few restrictions do I have to put on my fantasy for it to be completely different. So if it wouldn't be much different with marriage, then what would be the condition that would make it completely different fantasy?
I don't understand the question at all.
Okay, so you put one restriction on the same fantasy you gave me earlier, that as a precursor to that fantasy, and because of that one thing, your fantasy ends up looking completely different because it has to.
Oh, if I had to change
if I
had to change one aspect of my fantasy to make it completely different,
to make it the most different, yeah. An acceptable answer would be like the apocalypse happens, and so now, but even then, yours would be a perfect plan for that. You just have a sustainable little hut.
No,
that the zombies
I don't
can't
want
get in.
people to suffer. I wouldn't call it a perfect fantasy. And to say an apocalypse is a fantasy is kind of messed up.
I'm saying this, you apply one not imperfect condition. So like for me, my imperfect condition was I can't get married. And that changes a lot for me. If I can't get married, then I want to become a badass dude who's desirable and still does a bunch of cool things.
You know, I was thinking this might answer the question. The one thing that would change how my fantasy works is if I could ever English. If I ever came into money or not. So let's say I never came into any kind of money to invest or build a house with. Now how am I going to live my life? Pretty much exactly how I am right now.
Yeah.
But I would hardly call my life a fantasy. But is that fair? Does that meet your condition?
Let's say the
I don't
condition
have money to build
can't
this fantasy
be,
life.
Let's not make that condition. You can't have a fantasy. Okay. Because that's what you just did.
No, but to be fair, if the condition that changes everything in my fantasy is the fact that I never came into money at the beginning.
That is technically the most accurate answer.
Okay,
now
that's my point.
Do another one. So okay, do you get how when I say, let's assume I can't do one of the main things that I want to do, which is get married. That's one of the main things I want to do in life, right? As an example.
Okay, so you want me to just take one away arbitrarily so I can come up with a new fantasy. For example, I don't build a house. Now what?
I can see why it would be difficult for you because like your fantasies are so like amorphous. Like you haven't really stated any like really.
Our fantasies
firm
are
things.
made up stories, by the way.
Right, but so like mine, I had established I would like to have a wife and I'd like her to be like this and I'd like a house that looks like this and I'd like my life to look like this. And you have like one of those three things. It's like I want it to look like this.
You think I don't want enough?
No, it's not about enough. It's more about specifics. Like you don't really have any. It's like one is the motorcycle. Well, the motorcycle cafe is one.
I have specifics, but they're inconsequential. I know some stuff I want to happen inside the cafe. I know some features of the home.
Sure,
that's not what you want to hear.
I don't know why not.
You want to know what the house is like?
Yeah, if it's cool.
So it's probably 1,500 square feet, maybe.
Okay, I don't want to know this stuff.
There's a lot of windows on one side of the house, and these windows can close completely to block out all the sun, but they're almost always open. And this is the back side of the house. The house is in the middle of a field, and it's the middle of this field is slightly elevated. So if you were to get out on a sled on the field, you would slide away from the house. Not really.
Every direction.
In every direction. And then there's trees all around the border.
Little house on the hill, literally.
And you can't see beyond these walls. But if someone comes to the house, you'd see them. So
the trees or
if they came through the trees, you'd see them because of the elevation and whatever.
Do hobos live in the forest around you?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
That would be illegal.
So you don't walk there?
Huh?
You don't walk there at all?
To the trees?
Yeah.
I do. I walk around.
So you'd know if there were hobos?
I would probably see or smell them.
Okay.
Anyway.
Are they?
No.
Okay.
They're not.
Okay.
They're nice hobos. Anyway.
They don't sleep overnight.
They're considerate hobos.
They wear cologne.
There's a small garage attached where one or two cars goes, and the roof. The house is, I can't decide. I think it's all white with black trim, black roof, and there's a red door and some nice colored wood trim on some aspects of it. Inside, it's almost like a studio, and then it's one room. There's a stairs that goes up to a loft over the living room, and the ceiling is tall, and that half that doesn't have the loft, and the kitchen's kind of small, and it faces toward the front of the house, and there's a long driveway that doesn't go. It goes to the front of the house or straight to the side, and then it goes along the trees to the gate, which is through the trees, and
who mows your lawn?
I was going to say, I was specifically thinking about that. In the original fantasy, someone comes out and mows the lawn, but I wouldn't mind if I did it.
It's a lot of lawn.
It is a lot, and I'm going to be gone a lot, so I probably couldn't do it. What are you shaking your head for?
Your fantasy is shit, man.
Yeah,
you can't even mow your lawn in your fantasy.
But I
can't even figure out.
I haven't described the bathroom yet. The tub is full of shit.
No, that's cool. That's actually a cool house idea. I just keep like when I think of all that lawn, it's like, man, that's a problem. You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to hire somebody.
Yeah.
That's what we're getting stuck up on.
But what about the lawn?
It's not. I was questioning who the hell would knock on your door and offer you a music contract. That's funny.
See, we're a little practical. But who would mow the lawn?
Let's presume in a fantasy, the lawn gets mowed. That's funny. All right. Well, that was fun.
You done?
No, I still want to hear. I still want to hear a more different, like.
You just want me to have a different fantasy.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't want you to change your main one. I want you to have an alternate that's super different.
You want me to make up. This is what you want. You basically want me to talk about fantasy like it's a video game, and now I have to play this game a way I normally wouldn't play, but but I would still enjoy.
Basically, yes, but I know that you never play video games any other way than the first way you play them.
That's what you want.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Okay.
So I could see why this would be challenging for you because every time I play a game, I can't do it the same way.
I have a slightly different one. It's not much different.
Okay.
Basically, I live in a mobile home and I drive around the country and I live in all kinds of different places. And every once in a while I fly out and I visit other countries and I'm gone for long periods of time. I never live in one place for a long time. And what I'm doing with my time is mostly just traveling all the time. And I'll stay at a place for like a few months or a year and try to get involved with the people, understand how different things are and just become as unignorant to the world as a whole as possible and move as much as possible. The nomadic version. See, it's kind of different, but it's not super different.
Yeah, that's cool.
I would not be disappointed if I lived that way, but it's not the main one I choose. If that suffices.
Sure. All right.
Passing grade.
I would grade that a B.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but that presumes I somehow have enough money to do all that, which I wouldn't. But it's a fantasy, so I'm allowed to do it.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
I had to do this to prevent myself from like laughing because I don't know that you have a fantasy that involves commitment. As an interesting exercise. Like if you had to be stuck doing something.
Seems correct.
If you had to do something that you were stuck doing it forever, what would that thing be? You're stuck doing it. This is just now a question about you. It's not a fantasy thing.
I don't know. Probably a job so I can make money so I can pay my rent.
What job?
I don't know that I get to choose, right? This is
so like for example, one of the commitments I have would be freaking orphans adoption. Like that's a commitment forever, but it's like part of my fantasy. You chose
orphans, yeah.
Right, I chose that. So, or another commitment would be, I don't know, involvement in a community or a band or something like I would do. Or
could you? But presumably you could enjoy a commitment, whereas presumably I could not enjoy a commitment.
I think you.
Right,
I think you could.
Because that's the observation. My fantasies have no commitments. Therefore, if I had one, it's not what I would enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But inversely, there's presumably you're not like me and there is a commitment you could have that you would enjoy, like orphans or community. Like I have to be here. I don't always enjoy it, but I usually do. And that's good enough.
Yeah. But I don't know that there's a person in the world who can't enjoy some kind of commitment. I think commitment is the precursor to a lot of enjoyment. Because you can kind of fall back on.
It sounds like a lot of marriage talk to me.
Well, I don't even want to. Marriage aside, it's just like, the knowledge that you stuck to something is like,
yeah, but you can commit to yourself and not to somebody else.
Your commitment to yourself is to not commit to anything, right?
No, I forgot what I was going to say. I don't want to be committed to anything else. I'll make my own commitments. If I want to work on this business, it's not because somebody told me to or I have to make X amount of dollars. It's just because it's what I wanted to do.
Well, you're not. To be fair, yes, you're not slave to these things. It's you deciding that you're going to be committed to them. In this exercise. This is just an exercise. I'm curious if there's any one thing that you'd be like, I have to pick something to commit to forever. What would that be?
Well,
you're not drafted to this commitment. It's not like wartime. If it's too painful to think about.
No, it's a translation problem, and I'm not retaining thoughts very well. But I do want to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, it is weird. It's just kind of weird to
so
me that you didn't have anything.
No, it's interesting observation. You call it no commitments. I call it not free will, freedom, where I have no commitments. Whatever, they're both correct.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing you said was, is there a commitment that you would enjoy? Is that the question? It wasn't quite what you asked.
You could ask it that way.
How did you ask it?
That you would pick, that you could see yourself doing it.
Oh, doing it. Sure, I can do any commitment.
Okay,
I can work a
so
job that I would rather just sit home
find
all day.
purpose in. Maybe more than enjoy. It's not like it makes you happy doing it. It's that this gives you meaning.
Well, I don't know what it is, but it probably exists. There's probably a job, for example, that I have to clock into, do 9 to 5, and I find purpose in it.
Mm-hmm.
It probably exists. I don't know of it, though.
Yeah.
That's a gray answer, if you'll accept it.
I'll accept it. It is a little concerning. Just, deeper than superficially, like, whoa, that's weird that you'd be that averse.
I'll acknowledge that's an interesting observation. I think it merits more thought.
Yeah.
Because,
that bare minimum.
Because on the surface, it sounds bad. And I can see that.
That's kind of, I haven't thought about it too much either. It's just when I heard, like, whoa, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not even criticizing. It's just an observation. But maybe it is worth thinking about.
I will say then, I think it sounds bad on the surface. You don't have to agree or disagree.
Okay.
I don't think it is bad, but I haven't thought about it. I can't say whether it is or isn't, and therefore I should think about it.
I know at least, I don't know if it's how I was raised or something, but like I was raised to be like, commitments are like good if you commit to good things, because then it like keeps you dependable and I don't know, other things.
Yeah,
I haven't observed that.
Maybe we see commitments differently.
I haven't observed that I don't know if that's an okay precondition to have about commitments, but who knows? We'll have to think about it more. Maybe we'll talk about it.
Maybe.
It might be a good topic of conversation.
Well, it was really fun to laugh at shit tubs.
Every morning you wake up in a pile of shit. I'm going to listen to this one back.
Just that part was really, I felt like 5 minutes. I was laughing for a while. It was probably just 2, but man, that was tough. I was sweating by the end.
Like, I imagine your fantasy would be just terrible. All right. Thanks for listening. Are you done? I'm done.
Yeah, the fantasies are over. It's back to our lives, okay?
Yep. Back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Mom, spaghetti.